Good morning. Welcome everyone to Short-Term Rental Intel Podcast number 23. Today we are blessed to have Koryn Okey here on the Short-Term Rental Intel Podcast. Koryn joins us from a very long career in the short-term rental industry, starting with Flipkey. She worked her way up to a global account manager, I believe, from my understanding, and now is with the vice president of client experience for Breezeway. I'll let you dive into it. Breezeway is a property care and service platform for property management and hospitality providers. Welcome, Koryn Okey. Thank you for joining us on our podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Koryn, we've got a lot to go on a professional level, but would you just kind of paint the picture of who Koryn is for people in your personal life? What are you up to aside from the short-term rental industry?
Well, lately, not a whole heck of a lot. Sitting in my apartment mostly. No, I'm originally from Ohio. I've been in Boston for the last 13 years. Really lucky to have a great, group of friends and family there. But have been spending a lot more time in Ohio recently, because I have a new little 1-year-old nephew. So love spending time with him. Love the beaches of St. John down in the Virgin Islands. So spend as much time there as I'm able to.
Well, wonderful.
Nice. Let's go into your past a little bit about Flipkey and that whole experience. And then maybe we can kind of touch on, what you're up to at Breezeway, but I'd love to hear how did Flipkey get started? I know you're in the early days at Flipkey and then the whole transfer to the old acquisition to TripAdvisor and all that. So would love to hear more about, how that experience was and what you guys were up to.
Yeah, it starts off, it's sort of a super funny story. I was at the time working in publishing at a magazine in Boston. And one of my friends randomly got connected to TJ and Jeremy, two of the founders of Flipkey. And she went in and interviewed and she came back and she said, well, I'm not interested in the job, but maybe you might be. And I remember thinking well, what does that mean? And why aren't you interested and why would I be interested? And of course, because I was curious, I was like, well, let's see what it's all about. And I remember going into a really small office. It was, I ended up being the 8th employee at Flipkey. That got hired and just sort of thinking okay, I understand the idea of vacation rentals and I get the idea of what they're building with the guest review platform and understand why that could be important. So sure, I'm game, but at the time was 13 years ago, 26 maybe. And I remember thinking should I go to a startup? Is that the right move? Is that what I should do? And, now startup number 3, it was the right move for me. And it was really interesting, to see a business they had already done a really great job of driving brand awareness and working with a lot of leading, companies in the industry. But, it was really eye-opening for me to get that first glimpse into what it meant to do and to be a vacation rental manager and sort of everything that it took to make sure that these guests were not only finding the right homes, but they could understand other people's experiences. And then what I've come to learn in the last 5 years almost of having been at Breezeway is that I had no idea. I knew the marketing side, and that's a whole beast in and of itself. But, I spent 7 years at Flipkey, first starting to sell to our property managers on the West Coast of the U.S. And I remember at that time, we sort of had the country divided up into the East Coast of the U.S. and the rest of the world. And thinking back, I'm it's not really equal, but that's sort of how we did it, 13 years ago. And I was really fortunate to ultimately get to take over and kind of manage a lot of our international business and really learn a bit about how the traditional vacation rental management sort of industry and company facilitates and sort of operates here in the U.S. versus how it operates over in Europe and other places outside of the States. And it was sort of eye-opening to kind of understand those differences. I spent 7 years there, like I said, in 2012. So it would have been in my 4th year. Flipkey was fully acquired by TripAdvisor. And for us as a business, it didn't mean a huge difference. The one good thing is that we started working on the TripAdvisor expense account versus the Flipkey startup expense account. So that was kind of fun. But for us, we were still really committed to providing a great channel for people to come in and market their homes and to collect those guest reviews. And that was really forward thinking, when the team introduced that. A lot of people had been getting reviews, but, in testimonials, and they place them up there. And there was a lot of question on is that really what they said? Is that all they said? Was there a but that they've excluded? And, there was a lot of pushback initially on how people wanted to utilize reviews and the control that they wanted and things like that. But it was a really great experience. It made me love this industry. And I built a lot of really strong friendships and relationships with people over the years. So, like I said, I spent 7 years there, and it was a wild ride, and ultimately decided that it was time for me to take a break in 2015.
So the concept of reviews, or basically you guys helped develop that for the industry.
And to put this in historical context, this is prior to really Airbnb.com hit the scene. Would you say Flipkey basically invented the peer review platform system for the internet then, for short-term rentals?
For the internet, yes.
Yeah. Not in general.
In the industry, I think so. I think, listen, there's probably many companies that could say no, we did. And I think, what we did at Flipkey was provide a platform that helped, operators collect those reviews and display those reviews in a wider audience than they may have been able to attain on their own, right? Because we had the TripAdvisor brand and the TripAdvisor website. So when you listed on Flipkey, you were, included on TripAdvisor. And I don't know if it's still the case, but TripAdvisor was the largest travel website in the country, in the world, really. And so that was a huge opportunity. And so I think that people were collecting reviews, but in that sort of non-biased public manner. I think we definitely introduced that to the industry.
Maybe going a little bit, not off topic, but do you think, I always ask people this question, but do you think and I've been exploring this a lot, but do you think the concept of reviews may get disrupted soon? Maybe there might be a new technology that replaces the way we see reviews in this industry, and maybe the concept of reviews will be obsolete one day, and there's a next thing that's coming along. Maybe like Breezeway, where now you can, instead of a guest sharing what a review, how that house was when they stayed there, it's you can use a platform like Breezeway to share, hey, here's what the house actually looks like. Do you think technology might change the way we think about reviews and short-term rentals in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, this industry has been incredibly blessed to have some really strong technology be introduced and be leveraged and help drive. And I think a lot of the technology that has been introduced has been really influential in the advancement of the industry, and the fact that it is no longer considered this cottage industry, and it is just a far more mainstream type of lodging accommodation. So yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely a possibility. I don't know exactly what it'll look like. But I think what is really interesting, and one of the things that we've sort of heard and we've seen, right, is that the review can be influenced at so many different points of stay. And so I think, one of the things that we find with a lot of our clients, and I'm not, touting our own horn or anything like that, but might be tooting actually our own horn, whatever it is.
We'll do it.
Whatever it is.
Right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to say I'm not, but I am. But, we have our messaging product, and a lot of our clients are reaching out to those guests on that first full day in property and saying, how are things going? And I think that, as I said, the review experience can be influenced. And oftentimes when you wait until the end, and I'm not saying anything that any host or manager or operator doesn't already know, but it's too late to make improvements, and that review is going to be what it is. So I think that the points in which we start to utilize reviews will likely change over the course of the next, 5 to 7 years. How that is sort of captured or, provided to prospective guests, I'm not sure how that looks, but yeah, I think the reviews will change, because I think it's also that manner of, yeah, you may have been a terrible guest and you may have left a very nasty review that maybe warranted, maybe not. But I think that we're getting into that idea of, it's a little bit more of a reciprocal nature than just, I'm going to say what my experience was and the manager can respond, which I've always said has been super important. But now I think we're sort of going down the path where there needs to be a little bit more of a reciprocal review process.
Yeah, and I mean, just our guest screening software too. AutoHost doesn't even use reviews as a data point for screening guests. It's so subjective. It's almost not a good data point. But I guess for people booking properties, it definitely is. I mean, it's really the only data point you have to know, hey, is this property going to be good, bad, or in between?
And you're also starting to see a little. I've seen some hosts try to push their guests to looking at the review system the same level as a hotel, a 5-star hotel, 4-star hotel, 3-star hotel, and then coaching them to pretty much do their reviews with that in mind. You're not necessarily grading if the property is a luxury property or a non-luxury property or premium property. You're just reviewing your stay, the cleanliness of it, and trying to peel guests' minds away from the idea that this is just a public board basically to criticize, respectfully or non-respectfully criticize. But also, one thing we've tossed around is you've got this review system that is being leveraged in some ways for guests to maybe look for ways to get reimbursements or, kind of borderline on the word extortion. And so I hope, really, I mean, maybe this is just a hopeful opinion, but the review system follows a path where, like you're saying, there's reciprocal. Some hosts are bad hosts, some guests are bad guests. There's really no way around that.
Right. Well, and I think too, the other thing, right, is that it's very, like you said, it's extremely subjective of what that experience is like. And, I think that the biggest challenge in this industry is that you may have a lovely home. It may be well furnished, well supplied. It may be in the heart of the destination that you want to be in, and it rains the entire time, right? Or there's no snow if you're in the mountains.
Exactly.
And so, that experience directly impacts the review. And also the fact that there are some guests that have these Ritz-Carlton expectations, and they're staying at a Holiday Inn because that's what budget allows. And so we have to have a way to sort of identify that gap, right? And that comparison of value for budget, I think is super important, because, it's the same way that we talk about things where people have different expectations around what clean is, right? You have to be sure that we're all on the same path from the beginning to make sure that those reviews are actually representative. And so that idea of rating different parts of the stay, and again, like I said earlier, influencing that, hey, are you having a great time? We're really sorry that the weather's so bad. Here's 10 indoor activities you might want to consider. And it's not going to make up for it, but perhaps it impacts that overall review at the end of the day.
Yeah. So let's get back into Breezeway a little bit.
Yeah.
So what do you do at Breezeway, and what does kind of your day-to-day look like, and where is Breezeway going?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is.
Very loaded question. So what I do at Breezeway, I'm the VP of Client Experience. I started at the company in 2017. I was just talking about this with someone. So almost 5 years ago. And the product has evolved substantially. At that time, I was doing sales and account management, and sort of as you do, wearing many hats at a startup. And in spring of 2020, I moved over to the role that I'm in currently. And so I'm really fortunate to oversee a great group of client experience reps who are servicing our clients. We're responsible essentially for everything post-sale. So making sure that you get implemented well, that you understand the product, that you're using it, that it fits into your business. And then, continually helping and making sure that all of the new features and new development that our product team is working on, that A, you're aware of it, and B, you understand how it sort of fits into your business and whether or not it makes sense. And then if so, how to implement it. So, we have awesome clients, and I'm sure that every vendor that you have that gets on here says this, but like, I really and truly feel like our clients have been like hugely impactful to the success of our business, right? Their feedback and their support and sometimes their patience has been just, it's what has allowed us to grow as quickly as we have, and to continue to, enhance and improve our product. So that's sort of what I'm doing on a daily basis, is working with all of our clients and working then with their points of contact at the business. And where are we going? What's next? I mean, the roadmap is long. There's a lot of features, a lot of enhancements, a lot of new functionality that would really benefit our clients. And so, one of the things I'm super excited about is our inventory product that we just released about a week and a half ago. It's something that we've heard for about a year and a half now that people really wanted. And it is, we always gave you the ability to like track your supplies that you were using, but now we've given you the ability to really deduct from your stock levels and know when your inventory is running low, and make those orders as you need to. And so, for us, we're just going to continue to build and produce and provide really applicable tools for folks in this industry to make their lives easier. Because as I learned when I started at Breezeway, this is a really hard part of the business. I thought the marketing side was really hard, and the operations side is so tough. And I was like shocked when I first started talking to people and understanding how they were accomplishing everything that they were with so many people in such far destinations, and really tight time frames.
Yeah, I mean, Breezeway helps us solve a very difficult problem. I mean, Hosty is a client of Breezeway, but it's like we might have 50 to 60 cleans in a day, and it's cleaning a 1-bedroom up to a 7-bedroom luxury mansion.
Right.
In one day. And so it just requires an immense labor force to make all that happen. And not only do you have that, but you have 40 maintenance tasks too that we got to figure out how to do. And then we got to figure out how to inspect the quality of all those things. And
Right.
Breezeway does it nicely. I mean, we'll ask for a feature, and I feel like a month later we'll have it. So
you were asking for the right features then, which
you guys are already thinking about it before we even,
Not everyone gets the features they ask for.
but no, it's a really difficult problem to solve. And I mean, Breezeway has kind of hit the nail on the head with solving that, helping to solve that problem from a technology standpoint.
And I think honestly, I appreciate that. First off, A, I'm glad that you guys are happy. B, I'm glad that it's solving the problem. But I also think part of why it's able to do that is because so much of what we built really has come from feedback, right? Like, it's great to say we want to do this thing and then we can build it, and if no one's going to use it, not worth it. So we really take that seriously, and it's been a real driver in the business.
So I'm on the side of owner acquisition, business development. I'm on that side of things very heavily. Breezeway has even been adaptable for us enough that we've been able to build out little templates in it ourselves to accomplish things that we're hearing some companies take a month to do or 2 months to do in terms of owner acquisition and onboarding. And so from that end, it's been phenomenal. And then once you do use it for that aspect, you've basically captured all the information for that home as you begin to engage in the everyday onboarding, everyday care of the property, routine maintenance, the things that come up, those ongoing things that can't be taken care of when the guest checks out and the next guest has to check, tracking that
safety.
That's huge on the safety, the accountability. What the VRMA this year, a big word I kept hearing was closing the circle. I think it was closing the circle. And there's so many places in the vacation rental industry that the circle may not be closed. and that task may not complete, or that guest request may not be responded to. And simply because it's just a lot going on, and it's easy for things to kind of be pushed to the back burner or off to the side. And having a powerful tool that allows for that tracking over time, that accountability is a game changer. And I heard you talk about, is Breezeway good for an individual host? And it was like, well, where are they at in their journey? Do they live next door? Do they live on there? Then no, probably not. But I would lean towards, anyone who is struggling to begin to handle these things and has some ambitions to grow a little bit should begin looking at technologies immediately, or property management companies that have developed their own tech stacks and take advantage of this technology. But you said do it from the beginning. Don't wait until you have to do it.
Yeah. I think listen, I just said this the other day. I was like, my own advice to, this is the third startup that I've worked at in my career in specifically in vacation rentals, second in vacation rentals, but third overall. And the one thing that I always say to myself, like, if you could do one thing better, it would be document. And I'm really bad at that.
Same.
But I think my advice to somebody who's getting into this, right, is you've got to do it, because by the time you realize you need it, like, you're so far in the weeds that, like, it's like, you're like struggling to get out. And I think, to your point about the owner acquisition, I feel like oftentimes businesses have these like unintended wins. And maybe Jeremy would say like, oh, that was something that was in our, we expected this to happen. But I remember at Flipkey, the unexpected win was the influence that reviews could play for owners to make improvements to properties. And I think that the unexpected win here, to an extent, has been that onboarding piece and being able to say, no, here's what we do. And to your point, way faster than like a competitor may be able to provide that, because you already have the process in place to collect that information and to say, here's sort of where you stack up on what we require for our owners and what you need, or here's how we would see this playing out. And here's what we do on a clean. And it really just professionalizes the whole operation.
When you start talking to owners about not just bring their home on board with Hosty, but also part of that is running them through a Breezeway short-term rental safety inspection checklist, it really just elevates the conversation and the professionalism that this industry is striving for to a whole nother level. It changes the dynamic of the conversation.
Well, 1,000%, because I don't think that any homeowner goes into this thinking like, oh, I mean, they look at it and they're like, well, we have this in our home and it's fine. And it's like, right, that's you and your family. And that's not people coming and going. And it's, I mean, the work that Justin, my colleague, Justin Ford, who you guys know, and many folks listening, I'm sure, are familiar with, the passion and like the drive that he has around making safety like the baseline standard for every company in the industry is, I mean, it's phenomenal to see. And I think it's too often we talk to somebody that's just like, or that I'm talking to somebody and they bring up safety and it's like, I haven't gotten there yet. And I think it's with all things, right? Maybe you don't get there until it's too late and then you have to, but if we can be proactive, it's going to be hugely impactful for the entire industry, not your business specifically, but holistically as an industry.
Would you say, so your initial clientele was probably the property management company. Would you say you guys are moving to start basically serving RBO, rent by owner, mom and pops, property management, kind of all the whole value chain of different people in the short-term rental world? Is that where Breezeway is trying to fit into, or is there any one niche they're trying to you guys are trying to fit into?
I think historically we have we've worked with a lot of that more, maybe what people may consider more traditional property manager in real like destination markets or vacation destination markets. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of, and we have been seeing for a while, and I don't suspect this to change, is, there are a lot of companies, maybe they're not even companies, but there are a lot of people who have become really interested in and really passionate about this industry. And so, the short-term rental host that that person who maybe has one property or two or three or five, or is just getting into that, we're seeing a lot of growth in that. I don't know what we would like as an industry call that kind of segment of companies, but the kind of up and coming, those folks who are just really getting into this. And and I commend those people who are doing that, because it's probably early for them. And I think the people that are investing in technology and doing the research and coming to conferences and listening to podcasts and educating themselves are the ones that are going to win. So, we don't work, right now with a ton of individual homeowners. But we are starting to see much larger interest from those smaller, maybe under 10 home companies or individuals who are just getting started.
We've kind of always referred to them maybe as lifestyle businesses, or kind of your mom and pop management companies for the most part.
Yeah.
Do you think that group of the market is growing, or do you think it's consolidating more to a handful of property management companies, or it'll hit an equilibrium?
Well, it's funny. I think it's so funny to talk about it on that scale versus what a lot of times the conversation about consolidation is with the Vicasas and things like that. So here's what I don't know. I think my initial gut reaction, and this may not be the popular opinion, is that there will be some of those, some of the mom and pops that this is that lifestyle and they want to have a second home and somewhere to go, and maybe they rent it out. But I think we're going to see a lot of these folks who are starting with smaller inventory numbers really get heavily invested in and sort of driving that maybe the need for tools that are really targeted towards smaller businesses versus your 150, 200 home businesses. So I don't know that we'll see the consolidation. I think it's hard. I think we either see people doubling down on this is their business, or we see they try it, they do it for a few years, and they realize, holy crap, this is way harder than I thought it was. And they start to look at who can manage this for me. Yeah. So I think it goes one way or the other.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. If you look at the market segments right now, it's the rent by owner, the person who does 1 to 5 is 90% of all short-term rentals. There's 5 million short-term rentals in the US, and I think that's accurate, but it's 90% rent by owner, and it's 10% is a management company. So actually we're in a really small market segment compared to the overall market.
I think it'll be interesting to see if we start to see a shift to more of the services type larger businesses, right? So the boots on the ground in market, we're not doing full management, but we provide that in market support for the 1 to 5 homeowner who doesn't live in market and can't handle a maintenance task. And we already see that. But it would be interesting to see if we see a larger segment of that in the coming years as we have more of these sort of individual homeowners.
Basically a la carte services almost get created. Hey, there's a cleaning and a maintenance company, or there's a Evolve style company where they just do the marketing, and then there's your turnkey companies that do it all. But you're saying we're going to see a lot more popping up,
it's
in these
definitely
different niches.
Possible. Because that's the challenge, right? For a lot of these individual homeowners who have these properties, it's the consistent delivery of the product. It's the ability to be available when something goes wrong and have a support system. So I think it'll be, listen, I am not the visionary of this company. Jeremy has got these big ideas, and sometimes I'm like, wow, that's really, I would never have thought of that. So I don't pretend to be able to wear that hat, but I think that, if it's 90%, there's going to have to be a service option for a lot of them, right? To be able to make it sustainable.
Yeah, one thing we're doing is we're building out our own proprietary tech on the customer facing side. So for the guest, the owner, the vendors we work with, and Breezeway is kind of that middle software to kind of connect it all, and Guesty too. But we're going to plug in the data from Breezeway through API to our owner portal, so our owners can see what's happening at their property. And maybe we can give more optionality to owners. Hey, do you want to manage this piece through Breezeway, or do you want to, basically, do you want to manage your own cleaning and maintenance, and we'll just do the marketing, or vice versa, and basically just offering optionality to our owners of, hey, what do you want to manage? And it's not like we have to take everything.
Well, there are plenty of owners who are like, I bought this property, here it is. I'm going to tell you what weeks I'm coming in. I don't want anything else besides the check, right? I don't need to know what you're doing. You have my parameters of what you can do. And there's always going to be plenty of those. But I think as we see the industry become more mainstream, and it's already become significantly more mainstream than it was 10 years ago. But as short-term rentals continues to be like a hot topic, I think we're going to find more people who want to have a little bit of skin in the game, but I don't want you to call me at midnight if something's broken. Right.
Yeah.
And so they're going to need somebody to be able to support that for them.
Yeah. But I maybe want to be in the cockpit during the other
times. I want to know my home. I want to know who's staying. I want to have those conversations and understand why and from where, and, all that stuff that,
I think that's where the industry, the industry needs to move that way. It's like just more trust and transparency to owners, and their assets, their most expensive asset. They want to know what's going on at the house. I think that's huge if we can provide that. And
in a sense, I think you've seen the industry kind of shield more the owner from the ongoing activities of the home. It's kind of maybe been a mentality like, hey, let's keep them 1 or 2 degrees removed. That's kind of the ideal owner, and things might happen, but we're handling them, we're taking care of them, and they just get their check. But you have those owners that, whether it be because they love it, whether it be just an emotional thing, whether it be their primary home, they're folks that they're snowbirds, so it's still kind of their primary, a lot of sentimental value. They really need to feel like they know what's going on at their property, even though really it might be irrelevant to the day-to-day operations. But if we can solve maybe this dilemma of trying to keep owners a little bit separated from their homes through transparency, I think there's a lot of trust to be built with owners, and also bringing new owners into the market that maybe wouldn't try it necessarily because they are the owner who's like, I did long-term rentals, or I live down the street and I've interacted all the time. Here's the tools, but it's also here's the tools to see what's going on, but it's also getting taken care of for you.
Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head, right? A lot of it's about the trust. And I think that because, and listen, I'm not it's no judgment when I say this, but managers haven't been able, or anyone really, unless you're doing it yourself, haven't been able to very easily share a lot of the work that's been done, right? It's been an added step. And we all know in this industry, and that that added step is, as you mentioned earlier, that's what's going to get missed, right? We're going to do the work. It's going to be ready. The guest is going to come in. They're going to have a great experience, and we're on to the next thing. So that communication piece and the ability to drive confidence in the work that you're doing is so important for an owner to say, I trust you guys with my property, and I trust that you're doing right. But if you're not communicating what you're actually doing, I think then it lends that, well, why didn't you know that this was happening? Or I remember talking, and this is 6 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe 5 years. And I remember talking to somebody, and they were saying, well, this owner has a spot on their roof that they're concerned about. And so I go every week and I check it. And this was the maintenance manager, and the owner of the company was like, you do? And he was like, yeah, and I just, every once in a while I'll let him know. And it's like, okay, but if we're not documenting that we're going and doing these checks and driving that confidence from the owner, and you're only letting him know every third time that you do it, what about the next time that you go in and and there's a hole in the ceiling, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's like, when was the last time you were here? And it's like, oh God, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe. I don't have an exact date. So
this is an exact situation.
It's the trust piece. I know. It's crazy.
I think Simon Lehman said it best when he said we do a very poor job of sharing how much work we do. And yeah, I mean, Breezeway is kind of that mold to help solve that problem.
It's huge.
Yeah.
We can print out, here's to the owner, here's what happened, here's what took place. And they can see it. They can see the pictures. They can see everything documented. It's extremely powerful.
Yeah, because we do so much. I mean, hundreds of maintenance and cleaning tasks, every week. And yeah.
Imagine if you just started sending them it's like when you get a CVS bill, right? You get your CVS receipt. It's so long. And they're like, okay, just give me the extra bucks. Like, that's all
at the bottom is like the one sentence.
No, it's going to be information overload for them. They're going to be like, whoa, I'm getting all this. Wow.
Well, sometimes you see a lot of times like your guest communications is, or your owner account manager, your home liaison, however you restructure, they're getting that phone call from the owner, and the owner sees the tip of the iceberg to the issue. And so it immediately kind of takes this frame where it's like, well, how did this happen? And so the person taking that phone call, immediately as humans, we maybe get a little defensive, and to be able to fall back and say like, hey, we addressed it this time. We called you. You wanted it handled this way. We handled it this way. It happened again. We addressed it again. And now, like, should we just replace it now maybe? And having that document, that accountability, and being able to close the circle with the guest, with the house, with the owner, with internal and staff.
Well, and I think that's also, even if you are documenting it, right? Like, even if somebody knows that, if you don't have a central resource that everybody can access to see it, it's the same way. It's like, well, Bob fixed the dishwasher last month, and John did it the month before, and Sally did it the week before that. Like, and then all of a sudden the owner says, you turn it around and the owner's like, hey, this is the fourth time we fixed this in 5 weeks. Like, what's going on? And you're like, oh crap, I don't know. Like, let me go back, and you have to huddle everybody together. So having a central place that you're storing that everybody can access, like, it helps on both sides, not just on the making the right recommendation, or it helps on making the recommendation, but also having the data to prove what you did.
Is that where Breezeway you think is going? Like data analytics on, hey, this item was maintained 3 or 4 times this past month. You maybe want to like trigger an alert to say there needs to be a deeper fix that happens, or like, are you guys going to go deeper into data analytics, do you think?
My product manager.
Sorry if you can't answer that.
I mean, I won't make any promises or roadmap predictions, but I think that we have the pieces to make those recommendations, right? And it's just about understanding, just like we don't want to overload owners, it's about making the right recommendations and providing the right context at the right times to managers as well as it is to owners. And so I think that, we have all of that information. It's definitely not a Q1 or Q2 21 roadmap item, but I would not be surprised if we do end up, having that is something that is offered within the system in the future, because like I said, everything is in there. And it's just a matter of figuring out what the right cadence and the right process, and is it email, is it text, is it a pop-up, like, what does that look like? So I'm hopeful, because I think it would be really useful for clients.
I mean, it's a really difficult problem to solve, especially, I mean, you guys have so many different types of clients, because every property management company almost has their own set of processes and stuff that they do, so it's hard to design a product around everybody.
Yeah, you can't focus.
It is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying you can't really be laser focused on one thing. There's so many moving parts. You have to get good at a lot of things.
We do, and I think the one thing that that we really strive for. Listen, we're a growing company, and I think one of the things we really want to make sure that we're doing well, specifically as we move forward, is that we're understanding the whole problem and how we can solve for it, and not just slapping a Band-Aid on something. Right? To say, oh, you want this thing. And I think part of that comes with the ability for you guys to control that. So, there's a lot of work that has to be done, because everyone says like, oh, my business is totally different. And at the, maybe the way that it's done and the work is performed, or the order in which the work is performed may be different, and but the work itself and the the things that need to be done, a lot of those are pretty standard, and it's just a little bit of tweaking.
I guess you're right. Like fixing a dishwasher is just fixing a dishwasher, and however.
But how you do it,
yeah,
how you collect it, how you bill it, how you communicate it, all of those things are different. And so, it's one of the things that my team does, right, is help me understand your business, right? What are you doing today, and what do you want to keep? What do you not want to keep? What works really well? What doesn't? And then fitting Breezeway into that is super important.
Would you be so adventurous to just give us your opinion on where you think disruptive technologies are going to hit this industry, like AI, blockchain, robotics? Do you see an area, you're starting to see some platforms kind of go that way and use some of those technologies. Any thoughts on that?
I think we've got to be, you both just sort of mentioned it, right? We've got to be very selective and cautious, I think, in those types of technologies, because the wrong message to a guest at the wrong time, or the wrong message to an owner at the wrong time, it sort of is totally contradictory to what we're doing as these hospitality providers, creating and providing these really personalized services. So I have no doubt that is going to hit that those types of, specifically like the AI is going to hit our industry and will likely be very powerful as long as it's done in the correct way.
I almost think AI should start in the operational piece, and maybe that frees up the staff's time to focus more on that personal touch. So, it's kind of solving these behind the scenes operational pieces like data entry, or, maybe micro decisions being made on, hey, a cleaner declined this cleaning task on Breezeway, and who's going to follow up to figure out who's going to clean that property now. So can an AI solve that problem?
And you're saying, Koryn, that this industry needs to be very, very cautious of where we might lose touch with the human, the relationship, the hospitality side.
I mean, personal opinion. It's not the Breezeway.
I agree. Yeah. Because I think it's dangerous. You can't just go automate out humans where relationships are essential and needed and bring unmeasurable value to the interaction.
Yeah, I think listen, we wouldn't have a business if you couldn't automate certain parts of it, certain parts of what everybody is doing. I just think that specifically when it is guest focused, it's important to be really cautious. It's a little different, right? If it's internal and it's like, oh, hey, John, you weren't supposed to get that message. That's a different thing. But, a guest, hey, your unit's ready. Hey, but your door code doesn't work because we didn't connect everything. I think connectivity is going to be really important to make sure that if and when, because it's not an if, it's a when, right? When that happens, that it works and it doesn't create additional stress and burdens for the folks who are doing the work.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you.
I don't know if that's the right answer.
I don't think there's a right answer. I mean, this is something we just kick around and things we play with, and I think we're all in agreement that it's coming, but let's just be very careful about where we implement it and how it's used, and making sure that at the end of the day we're all still here because the guest experience and the memories that people create by traveling from vacation rental to vacation rental. So, but conveniently, I think that's a good point to wrap this up. Thank you for being so generous with your time, Koryn. Enjoyed this very, very much. Evan, people know who you are. You've been on the podcast before. I'm sorry I forgot to introduce you. Evan Wilburn, our co-founder. But again, Koryn Okey, Vice President of Client Experiences with Breezeway. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.